Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Tuesday, April 16th, 2024. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday, Major League Baseball. First up, the lone afternoon game is going to be the Texas Rangers taking on the Detroit Tigers. This one's also going to be featured on ESPN+. And we should see Casey Mize going for Detroit. No official starter for the Rangers right now, but I am seeing John Gray listed on ESPN, so he could very well be the starter. I wasn't really impressed with Casey Mize's last start against the Pittsburgh Pirates. I thought, only 2 strikeouts in 5 innings, just not really what you want to see from somebody like Mize, who I would consider not necessarily a strikeout-dependent starter, but somebody you'd want to see miss a few bats. And he was giving up some sharp contacts in that game, ended up giving up a home run to Edward Olivares. And, the Tigers ended up winning that game in the end, but it wasn't because of Mize. He set him up. Honestly, he was set to lose that game if the Tigers did not rally in the 9th inning and earn the comeback victory. But I do think that the Rangers, one of the toughest lineups in baseball that have hit righties well this year, should be able to get to Mize early. The question is, can the Rangers pitching staff, hold it down? We know that the bullpen hasn't been the best, and the starting rotation has some question marks, John Gray included. But the Tigers' offense, I don't think it's strong enough to really go score for score throughout this game. I think the Rangers' offense is too much in this one. So give me the Texas Rangers on the money line. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Chris Paddock and Grayson Rodriguez are your starters. To me, this is a lopsided pitching matchup, even though Chris Paddock in his first 2 games, he's faced the Brewers and the Dodgers, 2 teams that are off to good starts this year. And in both of those games, the Twins ended up winning the ball game 7-3 and 3-2. However, Paddock's given up 2 earned runs in a very short outing of 4 innings and 4 2/3 innings in each of those starts, 6 base hits apiece in those games, a home run each, and a couple of walks as well. So giving up that sharp contact, putting runners on, he's not really missing a ton of bats. That's really, for me, I just can't get there with him against another good team in the Baltimore Orioles. And this is an Orioles team with Grayson Rodriguez on the other side, who is pitching really well this year, 2-0 record, 2.5 ERA. We know he's got great strikeout stuff, and this is a Twins team that strikes out a lot. Their offense has been near the bottom of the league. When you look at those advanced metrics, exit velocity, expected batting average, expected slugging, near the bottom of the league in a lot of those categories. So not a great place to be. And you add in those injuries to guys like Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa. It's tough to trust the Twins lineup against a right-handed pitcher, especially right now. So give me the Baltimore Orioles in this one on the money line. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. A pair of southpaws on the mound in this one, Austin Gomber and Ranger Suarez. Suarez, so far, he's had 3 starts. The Phillies are not just 3-0, but they're also 3-0 on the run line. And that includes, the first game they were underdog against the Braves, so winning outright gets you the run line cover. But they beat the Nationals and Pirates by more than 2 runs. And, we've seen now, Suarez, somebody that pitched last year not as well at Citizens Bank Park than he did on the road. His last game against the Pirates at home was 6 innings of shutout baseball with 8 strikeouts. So I have faith, backing Suarez at home in this spot against the Rockies team that we know a lot better offensively at home at Coors Field than they are on the road. And, Austin Gomber has actually pitched better at Coors Field, believe it or not, this season. His only road start, he goes 4 2/3 innings of 4 earned, 2 home run baseball. Now, that ended up being a Rockies win, but to me, I just think the Phillies bats, this was a lineup that was great against lefties last year. So far this season, right around, middle of the pack in terms of the OPS and isolated power, but I think we see him really improve as the season goes along. I think they get to Gomber early and often. They've been able to throughout his career. Gomber's numbers against these current Philadelphia Phillies hitters, not good. So I'm going to go with the Phillies here and lay the 1.5 runs, maybe 2.5 runs as well. Next up, we see the San Francisco Giants taking on the Miami Marlins. Jordan Hicks and Ryan Weathers are your starters. The Giants were supposed to face a lefty starter on Monday. A.J. Puck was listed, but he was scratched due to illness, so they faced Edward Cabrera, the right-handed pitcher, and now we see Ryan Weathers listed for Miami on Tuesday, another lefty. I like this matchup for San Francisco. They have not hit righties too well, but they've crushed lefties this year. Top 10 in team OPS, top 15 in isolated power, low strikeout rate, decent walk rate. I think they get the Weathers and the Marlins bullpen that has struggled this season with a team bullpen ERA at 5.88. When you look at San Francisco, their bullpen's not been great either, but they got a much better starting pitcher on the mound in Jordan Hicks, who's really, he was somebody that's been a reliever for a majority of his career, but so far as a starter with the Giants, the team is 3-0. He's personally 2-0, and he's given up only 2 earned runs overall. Now, his strikeout numbers in that last game against Washington, a little bit concerning. I would say it was his weakest start so far, as he went 6 innings, giving up a home run and a couple of walks with only the 2 strikeouts. But we got to remember last year, this Nationals team did a great job, almost as good a job as the Guardians did at limiting strikeouts. So, I think that was a pretty tough matchup for a guy like Hicks, and he still was able to deliver for a 7-1 Giants win. Give me the Giants in this one on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to see Jose Siriano and Aaron Savale as the projected starters. Aaron Savale, I've mentioned, he's somebody that in his career has had issues with the home run ball. It's no surprise that so far this year, and a lot of throughout his career, he's about a home run given up per game guy. He's given up at least 1 home run in each of his first 3 starts, but that's really been most of the damage, or almost all the damage against Savale this season. He gave up 2 solo home runs in the first 2 games, and then he gave up a 2-run home run in that last game to Los Angeles. So, if there's runners on the base pads and you got a guy like Mike Trout coming up to the plate against Aaron Savale, it gets a little bit worrisome, but solo shots aren't going to really hurt you unless you tally them up in one certain start. I think Savale is going to be good enough. Like I said, I think he will give up a home run, maybe take Mike Trout to hit home run, get some plus money with the home run prop there. But I still think he's a better option in this game. Soriano settled down nicely after struggling in the first couple of innings against Tampa Bay, but still, even if Soriano gives the Angels 3 to 4 decent innings, you got to sweat that Angels bullpen. I know the Rays bullpen's not been great. They actually have the highest ERA in the league right now in terms of their bullpen, but we know this is a Rays team, a franchise that's been known for its pitching, and the bullpen projected WAR-wise is still very, very solid. I think we see big improvements for the Rays in the bullpen as the season continues. I'm not worried about it, just like I'm not worried about the Phillies bullpen. And I like the Rays to grab the win in the end. But like I said, maybe take a look at that Mike Trout home run prop as well. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Carlos Rodon and Yusei Kikuchi are your starters. Now, Kikuchi faced this Yankees lineup a couple of starts ago at Yankee Stadium. He was excellent in that game. 5 1/3 innings, shutout baseball, 7 strikeouts. He followed it up with his next game against the Mariners. 6 innings of 1-run ball with 9 strikeouts. Kikuchi's in great form going into this game, and I think he pitches pretty well. The Yankees have decent numbers against lefties, but I would say much better numbers against right-handed pitchers, while the Blue Jays, they have crushed lefties this year. I've mentioned I worry about the regression for Carlos Rodon. He's got a good ERA right now, sub-2. When you look at the expected numbers, not the best, and I think the Blue Jays get to him for a few runs early. I'm going to go with the Toronto Blue Jays on the money line in this one. Next up, it's the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Boston Red Sox. Tanner Bybee and Garrett Whitlock are your starters. You have Tanner Bybee's got the ERA above 5 because of that last game where he struggled. He got shelled against the White Sox, 5 earned runs given up, but still the Guardians found a way to win that game. And the Guardians are 3-0, and Bybee starts this season because they're a team similar to a team like the Orioles that they're just never out of a ball game. They find ways to win, and we saw that in the final game of that series against the Yankees, or the extra innings W. And I think that the Guardians win this game. I like their chances. Garrett Whitlock, I didn't love his start last time against the Baltimore Orioles. Gave up a home run in that game. He was able to go through 5 innings of 1-run ball, but he only had 4 strikeouts. He gave up some sharp contact, including that home run. And I could tell that the Orioles were starting to pick up some things, especially when they went the second time around the order. And the Guardians, with how well they do of limiting strikeouts, that could be a problem for Whitlock, I think, especially at Fenway Park. And we know this Red Sox bullpen, it's been used quite a bit recently. And I just don't think it's the best bullpen. You look at projected WAR, not a great pen. So I'm going to go with the Guardians here. I think Bybee bounces back. It's not an easy matchup here at Fenway Park, a very hitter-friendly ballpark. But I think Bybee's good enough. I think the Guardians find a way to win this one. Next up, we see the New York Mets hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates. Jared Jones and Jose Quintana are your projected starters. Pirates, decent numbers against lefties this year, right around, I would say a little bit above league average, but Jose Quintana's pitched well for New York, and, he's won the last 2 games. The Mets have won each of the last 2 starts for him, and including that 16-4 blowout win against Atlanta. We know this was a Mets team that offensively, at the beginning of the season, those first couple of series, really, really struggling, but they picked it up. They scored a lot of runs in that Braves series. They had some moments against the Royals, and I like their chance to get to Jared Jones, who's given up 4 home runs in his last 2 starts. I think Jones has a lot of potential. He's somebody that has really good strikeout stuff, and he doesn't really miss outside the zone, but he misses inside the zone. That's the problem, giving up those 4 home runs. I think the Mets get to him, and I think the Mets win this game. Give me the New York Mets on the money line. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Chicago White Sox. Brady Singer and Eric Fedde are your projected starters. Now, Brady Singer has pitched really well this season, including a start against these White Sox where he went 6 1/3 innings of 1-run baseball. However, All three of his first three starts were at Kauffman Stadium, and we mentioned last year he had very, very different splits, in terms of the home and road ERA. He was much better at Kauffman Stadium, much more reliable at Kauffman. So now this is his first road game of the year against a team he already faced. I do think, it's an interesting spot here. I think Singer could be, I think the White Sox could get to him for a few runs, even though that White Sox lineup is already one of the weakest ones in baseball, and you add those injuries on top of it. Not a great lineup on paper, but I think they find a few runs on Singer. The question is, can Eric Fedde and the White Sox bullpen keep up? I don't think so. I think Fedde, he gave up 3 home runs in that last game. He 4 earned runs against the Guardians. The White Sox are 0-3 in his first 3 starts. The Royals have a very, very good lineup this season, especially against right-handed pitching. They hit the ball very hard. I think they get to Fedde, and then when you look at this White Sox bullpen, in terms of projected WAR near the bottom of the league, the ERA hasn't been terrible at 4.2, but I still think the Royals, they find a lot of runs on this White Sox pitching staff in this game. I'm going to go with the over here in White Sox Royals. Like I said, I'd like to get there with the Royals because I think they are the much better team and Singer's pitched so well, but I do worry about the fact that this is his first road game. Next up is the San Diego Padres taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Dylan Cease and Wade Miley are your starters. Dylan Cease has pitched really well with his new team, 2.16 ERA. I mentioned that I had some concerns with his game going into the season, but you know what? He's pitched really well. Last 2 games, both quality starts, 14 strikeouts combined in 12 innings of work. The walks and home runs here and there. We saw him give a home run last game against Chicago, but nothing too bad. I think he pitches well. This is a tough matchup. It's against a very, very strong Brewers lineup, and we mentioned the Giants have really struggled against righties, so, Cease pitching against San Francisco in 2 of his first 3 games, maybe that doesn't tell the full story, but he was still solid against a very good Cubs lineup, so I think Cease pitches well. And then Wade Miley, that's where I have my concern here, is Miley, in that first game, 4 innings, no strikeouts against Cincinnati. We know Miley's already a pitch-to-contact guy, but you're not missing any bats at all, and you obviously didn't have a lot of work at spring training. That was only his first start of the season against Cincinnati, and now you're facing a Padres team that we saw, and we backed them against the Dodgers on Sunday Night Baseball because they were facing James Paxton, and the Padres won that game outright as a big underdog. They're number 1 in baseball in isolated power, number 1 in team OPS, a 19.2% strikeout rate, very low against lefties, a 16.8% walk rate, also extremely high against lefties. That's number 1 in baseball. So the Padres, arguably the best lineup in baseball right now against left-handed pitching. I got to go with them in this spot on the money line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Houston Astros. Reynaldo Lopez and Hunter Brown are your starters. Obviously, a matchup here. We got 2 starting pitchers in different directions. Reynaldo Lopez, a sub-1 ERA. He's had 2 quality starts to start the season. He's pitched very well. Hunter Brown, an ERA above 16. He's given up 14 earned runs in his last 2 games combined, including 19 base hits and 2 home runs. Now, I think by the end of the season, I think Hunter Brown's going to be a lot more, I think he's a lot of potential. He's still got really good strikeout stuff. I think he'll be much better by the end of the year. I think Reynaldo Lopez, due for some regression. I don't think he's going to be an ace-level starting pitcher in this Braves rotation. So, keep that in mind. But I still think the Braves are just too much for Houston in this ballgame. I think it's just tough to trust Hunter Brown until we see him bounce back, which I think he will eventually. But against the Atlanta Braves of all teams, just not the best matchup to do so. The Braves crush right-handed pitching. I think they get to Brown early. And this Astros bullpen, when you look at the team bullpen ERA, it is at 5.32. Got to go with the Atlanta Braves here on the money line. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks hosting the Chicago Cubs. Kyle Hendricks and Tommy Henry are your starters. I just can't trust Kyle Hendricks right now. I think he'll bounce back at some point, but he's given up 5 earned runs in each of his first 3 games this season, at least 8 base hits, at least 1 home run, but 5 home runs overall in 12 2/3 innings for a guy that's considered a pitch-to-contact guy. That's not what you want to see. And he's had 2 starts on the road, 1 start at Wrigley, so he's pitched in different stadiums, different locations. It just has not worked out. And now you're facing a Diamondbacks team that may not be as strong a lineup as the Rangers or the Dodgers, but still is a solid team. A World Series team from last year. And I think they get to Hendricks early and often. We look at Tommy Henry. He's pitched better at Chase Field in his career, but he's also got an ERA just below 6 this year, giving up at least 1 home run in each of his first 3 starts, and facing a Cubs team that's got great numbers against left-handed pitching this season. The OPS is in the top 10. The isolated power is number 2 in baseball. So I'm going to go with the over here in Cubs Diamondbacks. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners hosting the Cincinnati Reds. Hunter Green and Logan Gilbert are your starters. I look for the opposite from that last game in this one. I'm going to go with the under here in Cincinnati, Seattle. Hunter Green, we know he struggled early in that start against Milwaukee. He gave up 5 earned runs in the first 2 innings, I believe, in that one. But after that, he settled down nicely. He ended up going 6 innings. He had 9 strikeouts. He gave the Reds, much needed innings in that game. He still had 22 strikeouts and 16 2/3 of, work this season. The Mariners have, some of the highest strikeout numbers overall this year. They've got some of the worst numbers against right-handed pitching in general. And in baseball, you look at the numbers, dead last in isolated power. A 570 OPS is also dead last. 31.4% strikeout rate as a team against righties, and a pretty low 7.6% walk rate. So I think this is a beneficial matchup for Green at a pitcher-friendly ballpark. And then Logan Gilbert on the other side, while he's had some issues with the home run ball and the Reds have decent power numbers, I still think Gilbert's a solid option for Seattle. He's missing bats. He pitches well at home usually. I'm going to go with the under here in Mariners-Reds. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Oakland Athletics. Lance Lynn and J.P. Sears are your starters. I think J.P. Sears pitches pretty well in this game. We saw him struggle early on. He gave up 9 earned runs in his first 2 starts, but his last game at the Texas Rangers, one of the best lineups in baseball, he goes 6 1/3 innings of 1 hit ball with no runs given up, 5 strikeouts, and a 1-0 A's win. You're facing a Cardinals lineup that in the last couple of years have been decent against lefties at times, but so far this year, not so much. When you look at the numbers, they're bottom 10 in baseball in team OPS, bottom 10 in isolated power. The strikeout rate and walk rate are pretty good, but I think Sears pitches well in this game. And on the other side, you got Lance Lynn. He's very inconsistent. Last year, we saw him really struggle. So far this year, we've seen mixed starts. We saw the first game really solid against the Dodgers. Then you give up 4 earned runs to the Marlins of all teams, 3 home runs included. Then you bounce back against the Phillies. But to me, I just don't think that the value is there with St. Louis in a game like this. Oakland's been a solid underdog this season. I'm going to go with the Oakland A's in this spot on the money line at home. And the final game we're to talk about for the Tuesday card in Major League Baseball, it's the Washington Nationals and the Los Angeles Dodgers. No official starter for LA, but Patrick Corbin should be going for Washington. I got to go with the Dodgers here and lay the 1.5 runs. Like I said, we're going to find plenty of spots to back teams like the Nationals against teams like the Dodgers where we're getting really good prices. But to me, I just don't see the benefit for, Patrick Corbin going on the road here against this Dodgers lineup. We know how strong the Dodgers are offensively. Maybe not the best start of the season against lefties, but, they're still top 15 in OPS and isolated power. That strikeout rate a little bit steep at 24%, but it's Patrick Corbin on the other side. He's got an ERA above 8 so far with the 0-2 record. We saw him in his last game give up 7 earned runs and 11 base hits against the Giants. I got to go with Los Angeles here and lay the 1.5 runs at home. Probably lay 2.5 runs. We'll see what the official line is for this one, but it could be in the minus 300 range. And if that's the case, you might want to lay 2.5 runs to get some plus money or just a better price in general on your side. And that's it. Those are the games for Tuesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Romanelli. Good luck.